Let's take a look at the 2 deepest hip flexor stretches that I know. Starting with the couch stretch variation. The normal couch stretch, I would just face forward and I would pull forward, get into hip extension, and that would be it. This is going to be much deeper, and I'm going to have my balance by turning sideways on the couch, getting my knee as close as I can to the couch, getting a little bit closer to an internal rotation, or at least a neutral position here. That's going to increase the stretch. I'm going to walk this foot away to pull myself into hip extension. That's going to increase the stretch. And then also when I lean to my right, I lean away from this hip that I'm stretching, and I can lean down however far I can lean down to get deeper and deeper into that stretch. Leaning on that elbow, put the hand behind here, can put the hand up here, wherever you feel the stretch more, and that's going to be a real deep, intense stretch of the iliopsoas hip flexor muscle. Second one, it's kind of a 5-for-1 stretch. I'm able to stretch a lot of things with one, so this is also kind of a bonus, just cool down stretch, especially after jiu-jitsu, to open the chest and some other things as well. So I'm obviously going to stretch the quad and the hip flexor together when I go here, pulling this back. I'm going to get a light hamstring stretch here. Now, I make sure I plant the ball of my foot on the inside close to the big toe. Pull this back as far as I can with my foot sort of reaching out before I flex my ankle for an extra pull. Being able to flex my ankle gives me that last little bit of pull into the stretch. You want to get right to the edge and then have that little extra pull left to get as intense as you can handle. Slide my elbow into a position where it doesn't hurt my shoulder, but I'm able to get a nice chest stretch. And then you could probably feel a little bit of low back, quadratus lumborum stretch. So in all, that's 5 things stretching there. And then this arm controls how close I come to the ground on the other side, which is also going to intensify the stretch. Bring this knee down to the ground, and that gives me a little more internal rotation, which also increases the hip flexor stretch. Okay? Because the psoas, the hip flexor, right, it pulls my knee up, but it also pulls me into external rotation. So the deepest flexion of the hip brings my knee out. So when I bring my knee in, that's increasing the stretch as I bring my knee back. Also leaning away stretches, because the hip flexor muscle doesn't just bring me into hip flexion, bringing the knee up towards the chest. It also can flex the trunk, right? So if my hip flexor muscles can activate and pull my trunk this way. So I want to pull away, stretching those even deeper, and especially that part of the psoas that attaches to the low lumbar. It's going to open up that low back and can sometimes alleviate the low back tightness and problems that come from having a really tight hip flexor, sitting too much, or getting your hip flexors too strong from playing too much guard in jiu-jitsu, which is what did a lot of damage to my hips. So when you're in this stretch, you can also, instead of just being purely static, you can PNF by just trying to pull your knee up towards hip flexion, and also driving back. You don't even visibly need to see the knee move. You just need to be straining against with the hip flexor muscle, and then when you let go, it's going to relax the hip flexor muscle, and then you activate the glute to drive your knee back into even more hip extension, and you're retraining those glutes to fire, because when your hip flexors get too tight, it deactivates your glutes, and that's part of what leads to the imbalance and the bad tracking in the joint, which can lead to torn labrum, arthritis, all sorts of different problems. So you want to avoid this. You want to be doing this stretch if you're doing jiu-jitsu before you have problems to prevent it. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps.